So I really want to focus on here is I want to tie into two presentations that led up to this. First, if you remember when Dexter Johnson and his panel talked about, here are all the things NASA is doing with the space station Artemis project, and they all kept hinting there are things they're looking for people to do. They're looking for customers, they have products, and there's research they're looking to get out. Then second, I want to tie into our last presentation going, there's a lot of stuff the aerospace industry can do. The question is, should you do it? And that should goes, are there market opportunities for it? And then assuming there's a market opportunity for it, then can you make a viable business model around it worth pursuing? And so there are federal programs in place to help do that. And that's where my conversation with the folks today, where your taxpayer dollars and how you can maybe utilize some of them in order to help advance some of your innovations in aerospace and defense. Next slide, please. All right, so the agenda, I'm going to go some context setting as to what tech-based economic development is and why the federal government has an active interest in putting these programs together. And then I'm going to start talking through a series of programs that can be utilized. Next slide. So just a little background on what the Ohio Aerospace Institute and Parallax Advanced Research actually is. So in the late 1980s, a private-public partnership was formed between NASA Glenn, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, and then Ohio's 10 based academic universities are going, we want to do some things to pursue more opportunities within aerospace. A, because aerospace is the backbone of Ohio's economy. But then B, it's also, if you can do things in aerospace, that's one of the best growth sectors you can ever be in to build a larger economic base for a greater region. And so from there, Ohio Aerospace Institute was formed, and we focus on three things. First, federal R&D. So a lot of times federal government subcontracts out to people to help do some advanced research. We can do that. Second, education and training, where we really focus on now what do we do for the K through 12 market to train them up on opportunities in aerospace and to be aware of it. And then third, technology-based economic development. And then separately, where Parallax comes in, a similar partnership was formed around the rest of research that was being done at Wright-Patterson Air Base. And at a certain point, why have two groups doing similar work, competitors, when you really should align? And so that's where it all comes to play. Next slide. And then, and then I'm not going to go through this entire slide except for the fact emphasizing where I have done work principally with NASA to really help review some of these proposals that come through the SBIR, STTR process, as well as other things I've done in the venture capital space to really help commercialize technologies, particularly within life sciences and Department of Defense space areas. All right, next. So when we're talking about tech-based economic development, because I want some context set first, so these programs make more sense. What we're really trying to do is we want to grow economic bases, and we want to subdue that by supporting the development of a technology-driven economy. And there's a two-part purpose to this. You know, everybody hears all the small business support you hear for restaurants, things like that, and that's important. That deals with what economists call the prosperity problem. But the catch is prosperity can only exist when you have economic growth worth distributing in the first place. Aerospace is one of the best places for that. And then the second piece is going, and this is my DOD hat coming on. You want to maintain prosperity in this country, then you've got to put our country in a position where, thanks to where we are with technology development, you're in a position to always have an unfair advantage against the rest of the world. And that's what we're really focused on doing here. Next slide. And so there are 5 pillars that come with all this. First pillar we talk about is going, great. You have all this federal research and all this nonprofit research and all this university research. And the federal government spent a lot of money to do that research. What can we do with it from a commercial application perspective? So how do we convert that research over into actually commercial uses, applications? And the second piece is in the process, great. Now, who's going to do the commercialization once I get it out the hands of researchers? So I need to have entrepreneurs who are positioned, ready to go to take that technology and build businesses around it. Being able to say, I can do the market analysis that was talked about. Is there a market for this? And then do I build a viable business model, make it worth building? Third, I'm not going to spend too much time in today's conversation, but you got to upskill the workforce to take advantage of these things. Because if an entrepreneur builds these companies, somebody has to be able to do the work. And it's not just the case of having engineers, although we need engineers. I need the technology operators on the ground to help produce this. Next, we have supply chains, because you realize if I'm building a drone, there's a whole lot of parts that go into a drone where I need to go to a series of manufacturers ready to go who can give me you got the copper wiring, check. I got the computer screens, check. So do I have that supply base to help them. And then finally, it costs money to make a business. So where is that capital going to come from? These are the 5 things we focus on trying to help people with. Next slide. And so when I say technology for this presentation, I'm talking about anything that makes you better, faster, cheaper, in the context of defense and unfair advantage. When I say tech commercialization, all we need to know is I care about going, we'll get to one second.
When did you say unfair?
Unfair advantage, congratulations. In the context of the Department of Defense, unfair advantage, because when we're building technologies, aerospace, a lot of them are done with defense in mind. And that means here, if I had to go to war with somebody else, I've got the best technology. And that better technology puts me in a position to win.
I used to be in the Air Force. I don't want to go out with the bad if you're going.
Exactly. That's why we say an unfair advantage. We have the best technology compared to everybody else. Because even if everybody has great airplanes, who's got the most superior one? We want to be in a position where we always have the superior advantage. Yeah, so I hope that clears that up. And second piece is going, we talk commercialization. Great. Now it's a whole process of going, get the research, make a business out of it. And tech transfer is the process of going, now get that research in the hands of those who can make a business out of it. Then your final set of legal mandates you see here. I'm not going to go through them all in detail, but at a high level, since the 1980s, the federal government goes, we want these things to happen. So first, we've made it possible for people who are being funded by the federal government to do research, to be able to actually take that research and commercialize it. Second, we then put a second act in place that goes, all right, we now want these agencies to go a step further. A certain percentage of your budget a year needs to go and be allocated towards getting your technologies out into the marketplace. Then Federal Technology Transfer Act said, now we're going to even make it easier to create different type of agreements and programs at the federal level in order to facilitate that. And as we really went to the America Competes Act, now we're going to put more funding in for more programs to help facilitate the goals of the 3 acts I just mentioned. Next slide. And so at a high level commercialization, I'm not going to walk through every step of the model, but we're going to basically go with, there are 3 baseline things we're trying to analyze. First, can you technically build it? Second, is there a market? Third, assuming you can technologically build it and there's a market for what you're trying to do, can you build a business model around it that can ultimately become viable and grow? Next slide. And so when we think about this, we start with an idea stage, and you have an idea, you need to basically go and prove or disprove is there a market need. And then I need to get a necessary sense of what's going to take to technologically build this. And if I go to the pre-seed, then my question is going, now prove or disprove that what I built, my technology, actually satisfies that market need. And I want to get a sense from there how much more commercially feasible is to go forward. And if I get to the seed stage, then I'm going, now prove or disprove there's product market fit. And by product market fit, I mean, okay, great. I know it solves the need, but now does the market actually care enough to want to adopt this at scale if it knows it can do that? And then the idea is once you get to the series stage, now I'm showing I got a viable business model, grow, grow, grow. And my exit game plan is either, do I grow this to a large enough company where I go the IPO route? Do I take my technology and a larger company goes, we'll acquire your company because you've proven there's something here. Now we'll take it and carry on the rest of the way. Or do you recognize I do something else with it? But that's basically what your game plan is here. Next slide. And so the very first thing is, what are some programs at the federal level to help me prove or disprove is there a market need? This is what we call the National Science Foundation's Innovation Course Program, the I-Core program. The idea of here, it's a 7-week program where you're working with mentors from various industries to do customer discovery interviews, where you're going to start talking with various people that go with, learn more about their pain points, how are they trying to solve the problem, how much of this is a problem to them, what they really care about. And the best summation I can give from this came from the founder of the I-Core program and went, it's to give you a go, no-go decision. All right, if you realize there's not a market there, let it go. And so you'll do that 7 weeks from there. Go back slide, thanks. And so couple things I want to mention. There's regional I-Core programs that are ran through various university hubs funded by NSF. And many of those hubs themselves, you can get in, participate in, regardless of whether you're university affiliated or not. So if you were just a general entrepreneur going, I'm curious, there are many universities you can actually go through and work with their regional I-Core model program to get into there, get a little funding, and do some of that research. And then second, there's the national program. That one typically involves a university partnership, but that one gets you up to $50,000 to do additional customer discovery research. And the other piece of note is NSF has it, but many agencies are starting to pilot their own. NASA, for example, is launching their own I-Core pilot right now to help people be able to do that validation while bringing in NASA technical experts to give them additional insights on what's it really going to take in order to build what you're talking about. And so this is program one I wanted to make sure was available, people understood. This can help you do that discovery before you go any further with tech-based product development, figure out what your customer wants, why they want it, and how much of a market need is actually in place for what you're thinking about doing. Next slide. Now from here, let's assume you went through I-Core and you said, hey, there is a market need for things. The most natural urge from the entrepreneur at this point is let me start building, and let me start building from scratch. And that's not the thing you should do. In entrepreneurship, somebody once told me plagiarism is good. Find someone else's technology and property that may be able to help you start your initial round development, save you some time, effort, and lessons learned. And so remember when I talked about how their agencies have federal mandates get some of their technology out into the marketplace? They do that through their tech transfer programs, also known as their T2 programming. So some examples for that is there's licensing opportunities. Many of these agencies say, I'll let you license them. For example, NASA will give you a try before you try type license to help you come in and go, all right, you want to evaluate this, see if it's good for your business needs. We'll give you a non-exclusive license for you to do exactly that. Give it for about a year, play around with technology. Then if you like it, great, we can move to a startup license for you. If you don't, cool, you can move on, do something else. But at least you get to evaluate what's available first to see how does it help you or not help you with building out a product. Second, cooperative research and development. There are many times, for example, where it's for what you're trying to do, you can talk with people from various federal agencies and they may go, okay, for what you're doing, that's actually a very high priority area for us to want to figure out. So we're willing to enter a cooperative research agreement in with you, and we'll bring our funding in to help do some of that research to figure out, okay, how do we build this and whatever, and that's a really great pathway to look at. Your third is technical assistance. Many times is going, remember, many times you're trying to build something, you may find somebody from the agency has already tried doing this for about 5-10 years. And so there's some insights they can bring to bear in the form of some entrepreneur residence and coaching, consulting, and advisement they can provide to say, okay, if you're trying to do this, these things you need to think about. This is how your technology may need to be structured a little bit. It can help you develop things like product roadmaps and like to help start your development. Next up, you have information exchanges, where there's oftentimes there's information out there to go share with people. What do the agencies actually care about? One example was the presentations earlier today, where many people from NASA came and talked through, here's our programs and here's some of the critical things we have. That's a form of customer discovery. Two other examples. You can go to, say you're in the Air Force. The United States Air Force has a website called Air Force Tech Connect. They'll tell you, okay, here are the things we're really cared about, and give you a platform to say, here's what I'm thinking about doing. And the Air Force will tell you, all right, do we think it's a good fit? And if so, where within the Air Force you may want to start talking to for further discussions. And if not, they may point you, it may not be a great Air Force fit, but here's some other places in DOD or what our partners at NASA, FAA, you may want to talk to for what you're doing. The type of information exchange to help out. And then finally, there are many other public sector T2 programs provided at even state levels too, that really start helping people navigate the things coming out the university sectors of going, hey, here's some research, here's some facilities that can help you with a lot of these things too. Next slide. And so just diving into some things from NASA, some things that people may or may not be aware of. For example, there's a lot of NASA software you can actually get access to. So for example, if you want to do some product development and you say, I want to evaluate if some software will be useful for me, you can play around with NASA software and see, does this do it for me? Or at least give me a sense on, okay, this is what I like about the software, here's not, but at least I played with someone else's software first before I decided to build some custom built on my own. Second, you also got different toolkits they have out there on a regular basis to going, all right, if you think about remote sensing, here's some toolkits to help you get started with developing concepts around this. And then one of the other points I want to make sure about their T2U training. There are many different, depending on which NASA office we're talking about, many of them are actually partnering with universities to train students who can do commercialization plans. So when we talk about that technical assistance, there may be a way for you to talk with some of the program managers around that to go, I'm thinking about these sort of problems here, and maybe work with students who are being trained on how to become tech transfer and tech commercialization professionals, and they can actually work with you or a larger company of going and saying, let's figure out what that commercialization plan would look like and go, where does it make the most sense to develop this? and then give you something you can take and run with from there. Next slide. Now this gets to the heart of the conversation, the small business innovation research and small business technology transfer programs. Up to this point, the things I mentioned here were really helpful for that initial round customer discovery and that initial tech stack discovery. Now assume you get to the point where you realize after these two things, I really want to build something and I need money. And in the context of aerospace and defense, you know you're going to need money. It's not the same as I want to build a simple app to help people find restaurants where it's, all right, cool, it's nothing wrong with pursuing that type of opportunity. I can probably do that with no code solutions right now. But for a lot of stuff, we talk about aerospace defense, all right, I'm going to need a lot of money because a lot of prototyping, there's a lot of testing I have to do. There's a lot of intense research and development that comes with it. That can't simply be something I say, I'm just going to take over $1,000 and I'm done with. And so these programs allow you to do that. So when we say the Small Business Innovation Research Program, what we're talking about here is a two-phase program. Phase one is designed to help you figure out, okay, you've done some of the market research, and let's really get that higher scale understanding of the commercial and technology feasibility. With the idea is that if you're successful at getting that, then at phase two, we'll give you an additional capital stack, about $1 million, sometimes a little more, to then do something, follow up, build outs there, and really start getting some of that market traction. When we talk about STTR, technology transfer, that's really designed to say, working with institutions that already have some of that intellectual property and working with them to do some follow-up research to figure out now, can we commercialize this and transfer it over to your hands within that program? All right, and so just going here, we're talking about $4.4 billion that we're giving out, and this capital is non-dilutive, which means it's a grant. It's not a loan you have to repay, and you're not giving up equity in your company to obtain it. It's grant funding. Next slide. So when we talk about the process roadmap, here are the key points I want to drive home from here. So let's say you say, okay, I'm considering going after this route to start funding my initial round R&D. Well, the first thing is make sure, are you eligible for the program? I'll talk about those eligibility requirements in a second. Assuming you could be eligible to participate in the program, then the next set of things you need to do is, okay, great. Now, where's the opportunity? Which agency or agencies do I think make the most sense for what I'm trying to do? And then from there, what are they looking for? Doing the homework, what are they looking for? Because outside of NSF, most agencies are going to go with, your product needs to solve some sort of issue we have here within our agency. The reason why NSF can be more holistic is because their mission as an agency is fund innovation. So they can say, okay, as long as it's something that could be high impact R&D, they are flexible in a way that other agencies say, I need to see an agency-based use case if I'm going to move forward with you. And assuming you see those things here, then putting together a proposal and really getting those details and information in there, and then following those requirements to the T. And then going on their line, submitting the portal, go wait through a review process that happens at the agency level. And then if you're selected, go forward and start working. Next slide. So when we talk about eligibility here, what we're looking for are United States-based small businesses, and they're pretty generous on the definition of a small business. Basically, first question I'm going with is it majority U.S. citizen owned? And then second, do you have less than 500 employees? And then if you're particular, there's some other things we'll get into STTR requirements I'll get to in a second. And then the other key pieces of note, it's if you've been somebody who's done a certain amount of SBIR applications before as a company, then they are going to start looking at what was your previous success and conversion rates. They are going to look at because at a certain point they say, okay, are you actually getting this technology out of here, or are you just sitting on SBIR grants doing nothing? But for most people, first couple of times, this won't apply to you because you don't have that track record. And then for STTR perspective, next slide. Yeah, we're going to really look to make sure, are you working with a United States-based research institution? It can be an academic institution, number one. It can be some sort of, some sort of nonprofit that's, again, doing research, such as an Ohio Aerospace Institute, or some other federally designated research center. And I'm willing to go partner with them. And one of the critical things is they're making sure as a requirement, about 40% of that work has to be done by the small business. They basically don't want the university going, hey, we're getting this funding here for more research. They really want a serious small business partner who is working to go ahead and say, we're going to take this research and do something with it afterwards. Next slide. So when we talk about this program, you can think it up in about 3 phases. Phase 0, a pre-application phase, phase 1, and phase 2. Phase 0 is basically, great, I'm applying for the grant. And why I mention this is phase zero, certain agencies, such like the Department of Energy, actually have their own technical assistance programs that help people going, if this is your first time trying to apply for an SBIR with our agency, there's some training modules and coaching we'll provide to help you navigate those requirements more detailed. Separate and distinctly, the Small Business Administration funds a federal and state technology partnership program, also known as FAST. They do this with about 48 states and territories. Ohio Aerospace Institute manages this program for the state of Ohio. We get funded to provide that assistance for people going through the application process. And so and these are free programs, come in, navigate them through. And then last but certainly not least here, depending on who else you're working with, like if you're working with universities, many of them have their own tech transfer offices that do have their own sort of programs set aside to work with people affiliated with that institution going through to put this application together. These applications full can take about 400 man hours to complete. But assuming we go through that, then phase one's goal is great, is what you're doing commercially and technologically feasible. We want to really make sure here, even if you say it sounds like a great idea, can it actually be done? Can we do the analysis, figure out can it actually be done from an R&D perspective? And there's some milestones you're supposed to come up with in these plans, saying if I can show these milestones are achievable, then I would have demonstrated feasibility. And if I can do that, I can then apply for a phase two grant. Great. Now scale out the development. And this will take you ultimately where by the time you've done a phase three, which is going great, and this leads to the end game. Either you have now built something that agency goes, great, this is perfect for us. You've acquired a sole source contract. The reason it could be sole source contract is because you went through a competitive process for the SBIR, STTR in the front end. And then you had a customer. Number two, you go with, great, I have done the technical de-risking. And then if I need to go to venture capitalists for funding to keep my product going, they'll look at this very favorably because they're going, I know technical experts have validated this, and I know you have the government as a customer. So it's pretty comforting to me as an investor now. You have taken some of the material risk I care about. I can't get rid of all risk, but you've shown there's a market, you've shown it can be built, and you show somebody actually wants to buy it. And the person you want to buy is probably one of the largest purchasers in the world. Then that's pretty comforting to me. I want to go invest in it. Or in the third case, it's going, all right, maybe after all this, I realized I like this, but I don't want to go forward with a business. But I've proven it can be a viable opportunity. Then you can go sell off to somebody else and they can take it from there. Next slide. And so when we talk about the application process here, this is primarily about de-risking high-risk research and development. So they're going to see a strong technical proposal that really lays out going, what are you trying to demonstrate, prove or disprove from a technical perspective? And why is this technical perspective really high risk, high reward, highly innovative? And really break down that, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? What are your key equipment needs, your key personnel needs? And then how are you going to think about commercializing this when it's all said and done? And then you're going to break down a cost proposal associated going, great, now how are you funding all this? One of the critical things I want to make sure is also mentioned here, it's while this funding is for R&D, if you were to win a proposal, you can ask agencies for a TABA supplement, technical and business assistance supplement that can then cover additional costs that you may need to go, such as I need to engage patent attorneys, for example, for my IP strategy or some other business need that isn't R&D related. A couple other things to note here. When you see that type of thing, and if these things take about 400 person hours to build and can be 100-page proposals, a question many entrepreneurs often ask me is going, I don't want to necessarily go through all of that work per se, just to be told no. So are there some things I can do in the front end to better maximize my chances? First opportunity I point out to people is National Science Foundation. They have the SBIR, STTR project pitch. That's 500 words. You can do that summary in a weekend. And they'll get back to you pretty quickly and say, hey, yeah, we like you. And if that's the case, you have 1 year to submit an application. If they say no, don't, great. You spend 500 words to figure out no, why not? And then you can either go do some additional research to refine your idea or realize move on. And the second piece is going, as I'll touch on another slide, agencies have program managers whose sole job is dealing with SBIR, STTR all day. And it can get you to various program managers within their technical needs who will happily talk to you and say, I think your idea is cool, I think it's not cool, or I think it's great, but here are the concerns we have, or I think it's okay, but these are some of the things you need to think about before you go forward with it. That can basically give you a sense on, is it worth pursuing? And if so, what do I need to button up on first before I put that application together second? All right. And then from a U.S. Air Force perspective, in addition to Air Force Tech Connect, that will also tell you go or give you a no-go. They also have a easier process than this. They have an open topics process that can be 12 slides. And by open topics, what we mean is going, you have an idea, you want to pitch the Air Force, there you go, and they'll give you 3 months, find a customer. And then you go through your larger white papers after that. And in specific topics, if you definitely have some ideas, you're already working place and market, they say, great, work with us on a simple white paper talking about what you're doing and how's it meeting Air Force need. And that's a much simpler process. So I just want to point those out there as well as other pathways within this program that can help you validate, is there something really there for me before I go on the full-fledged proposal writer? Next slide. And so when we talk about SBIR, STTRs, there are 2 types of areas in particular: specific topics and open topics. When we say specific topic, it's exactly that. An agency has came off and said, this is something we're looking for somebody to either, if you have something, or you can rapidly build something to meet this mission critical need area. And then the open topic is exactly that. Tell us your idea and we'll let you know if we want to move forward or not. Now, where do you find these ideas? First, SBIR.gov will gladly tell you, all right, what's out there. And what you find is solicitations typically don't always change from year to year, but they do evolve. So you can kind of read and see the trends going, okay, this group at FAA is looking for some things around UAS vehicles. I'm trying to play in that space. Let me see what they're doing. The second piece is going, you go to agency program managers, they'll gladly tell you, they're happy to talk with you. And then third, agencies will have to post a lot of white papers on their various technical challenges they're facing. And you can kind of read those and get a lot of insights into what they're doing. Example, one of my clients wanted to build vertiports. They found a very nice NASA white paper on vertiport ecosystem challenges, and they found an FAA white paper on the regulatory concerns companies are trying to overcome. They use that to shape their SBIR proposal. Next slide. And so when we talk about participating agencies, here, 11 agencies participate in the SBIR program, 5 of them do STTR. But some of the highlights I want to make here is, especially in the context of aerospace, most people with aerospace will come to me and say, it's NASA, it's DOD, and that's it. Realizing there are actually a few other places you can actually go. So for example, the USDA has a whole program track, Department of Agriculture, rural and community development, where they're looking for technologies that can assist rural communities. And they're working with drones right now off in the Gulf Coast around wildfire applications. And so that's one particular place people can go if you're thinking aerospace that's beyond traditional NASA and DOD. Another example here is going, great. Typically, if you know there's a Department of Defense application for something, chances are strong there's a first responder use case that can be generated off of it. That's with NIST and a lot of National Institute of Standards Technology. A lot of people typically ignore that from Commerce. You can go down that road too. Then we think about Homeland Security. Again, first responders, they're looking for a lot of stuff, particularly around AAM. In fact, there's a whole conference next week. They're going to talk about the needs they're looking to see from small UAS systems. So just keeping that in mind, and those findings will be put out public. And then additionally from that, you'll find NASA, NSF clearly will, NSF will say, if it's innovative, we'll do it. NASA, hey, if it's addressing a mission critical case, let's talk. Next slide. So I'm not going to go through this, but what that happens is every agency has different timelines where the solicitations come out. Timelines typically stay consistent from year to year, but they sometimes vary. NSF, you can submit a project pitch at any time. Other agencies, but while these formal solicitations come in place, you can reach out to the program managers at any time. And they can talk through and help gear up. And the advice I usually give people is, if I'm thinking about applying for, say, for example, a NASA solicitation towards the end of the year, I'm probably trying to talk with them about 6 months in advance. The reason being, give me time to learn as much as I can about the agency first and put the specific area I'm trying to tackle. And then give me plenty of time to start refining it, socializing it, getting feedback, so that when it's time for proposal, I put myself in the best possible case. Because the fact is, these are competitive. Acceptance rates about 6 to 12% rates for winning an SBIR STTR award. So, and so a lot of that make or break point is, are you getting comfortable with the people who are ultimately going to be part of the review process? And are you really learning these the agency first before you write the application second? Next slide. I'm like, and so if you need help with any of this at all, the SBA FAST program is a very useful tool because we get paid to do exactly that type of assistance. Outreach, business assistance, and in certain cases, will provide you financial support in the form of helping you pay for a grant writer. who's actually written these grants to work with you. So second piece of it all with assistance is depending on where you live. Many states also have their own supplemental programs to support tech-based entrepreneurs trying to go after this or other sort of federal opportunities. And so, for example, in Ohio, I would encourage people to look at Ohio's Entrepreneur Support Providers Network funded by Ohio Third Frontier. If you're in Louisiana, I would tell you look at their Louisiana Tech Transfer Office as they provide funding and resources to help with that. If I was in Maryland, I would look at TEDCO. These are just examples of state programs to supplement what the SBA does to really help people navigate this process. Next slide. And then other sort of opportunities that also exist to really help people commercialize. First, there are many federal programs funded by the Department of Commerce called the Build to Scale program. The idea is to support organizations trying to do specific things to advance the development of innovative technologies. My organization manages the Center for Advanced Air Mobility. So we're really working to help people who are thinking, particularly in the UAS space that was discussed in the last presentation, other funding resources to help support companies in that one for additional discovery work, additional customer acquisition work, and just additional technical product development. Separately, there are many pilots that many people are running with NASA now around tech transfer that if you want to get connected with, I can help you get connected to really start helping to say, help me evaluate what potentially could be a good opportunity for me and my company. And then last, certainly not least here, from a supply chain perspective, the federal government through their whole manufacturing extension programs is putting a lot of resources out there to help people who are trying to enter the manufacturing space to support aerospace companies do that. Additionally here, other things that we do, we also have a lot of research consortiums. Going back to what I mentioned earlier about formal and informal research exchanges to get information out there, we manage quite a few consortiums on behalf of the federal government that can help people talk with people from industry and government to figure out, okay, where's the intersection of unmet needs between industry and government? Because you find that, then I can tell you probably found a really good business opportunity. And then last but certainly not least, look at your state and localities, because many states are investing a lot in tech-based economic development to really support companies, provide you that technical and capital assistance to go forward. Next slide. And so here, I want to make sure we share this and give a moment for everybody trying to take pictures. Here's just some additional resources for further deeper dives in these topics I've discussed today to really help navigate, okay, what are some of the plethora of programs that exist? Just give a moment. Right, next slide. All right, so here's my contact information. Happy for anybody to get in contact with me for us to discuss in more detail. And if you have an idea, assist. But I'd like to open the floor up for questions people have about the topics we covered today.
A question.
Yes.
So there was a slide where you had all the different agencies and all the funding channels. Are there any rules in terms of how many different agencies you can go after at one time?
Oh, perfect. In terms of application, you can apply to many a time. The catch is when you win, you're going to have to make a choice. I'm like, when you win, you got to make a choice. So, because the federal government is not going to fund the same work twice. That being said, you're not going to fund, at least not for this. That being said, the ways some people have sometimes navigated this have been, I applied for SBIR with phase one to do analysis of R&D for this specific topic area. But then I went to another agency, DOE, for this specific topic area as part of that same thing. That's how some people navigate that. It's going, okay, I'll go put a different proposal, different agency, deal with different aspects of R&D. And sometimes it's not uncommon for people to go with, they'll do a phase one with one agency. Things work out well, but then they'll go to another agency, do a direct to phase two, because in the process of their phase one work, they said, I think there's better alignment over here now. And I'm gonna make that pivot over here. And that's perfectly fine. Good question.
Do you know of any companies that are like relatively big that have gone through this process? Like that were startups at one point?
I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, so certain ideas I can point out to, for example, if you think 23andMe, it's like, congratulations, they actually went through NIH and did that. That's one major example. And then separately, what you'll find is it's not uncommon for even many larger companies to go that new business line they have today. When you see it going, it's strictly because ultimately somebody else went through this process, built something up to a point that then somebody from Boeing went, I like what you're doing. I've got the money to take this to the next level after you've gone to SBIR that you don't have. I'll acquire it from here. And so that's usually a common play for a lot of people, especially in hard tech applications. Because it's so capital intensive, even after the SBIR, STTR process, but if you de-risk it, a strategic partnership may sometimes make more sense.
So you talked about your organization kind of helps people. Do you help us go from ideation up to, like, how does somebody engage with an organization like yours to launch an idea they may have?
All right, certainly. You just reach out and then we sit down and go, all right. And the questions I'll often ask up front is, okay, what are you trying to do? And then walk me through, how did you get here? Because that'll tell me a lot based on what research they've done, what experiences shape this, and then we'll go from there. So for example, it's there are times where entrepreneurs will come through and say, okay, we need to do some more customer discovery work. So then we'll actually work with them to say, let's start trying to connect you with people in industry and structure what questions you need to ask and work with you to ask them. Whereas sometimes we get an entrepreneur going, I didn't go through formal customer discovery, but you've worked in something for 20 years and you've seen all the white papers and the topics. So at this point it's going, great, you got the evidence here. Now it's just a matter of like figuring out, okay, what do we need to refine based on what your experience is telling us now first? Figure out, okay, what should you actually be doing? Then the second piece, then we do navigational support. So for example, for certain people we'll go, all right, let's go to NASA, let's go to the innovation exchanges and see, okay, what IP may be out there that can help accelerate your developments and give us some insights on the technological landscape. Where certain times we're going, some entrepreneur came and said, I already have that, okay, cool. And now let's work with you to actually put the proposal together, or at least get to a program manager to say, let's talk to them and figure out, is a proposal worth it here? And then finally, as people go through this process, let's say they win an SBIR, STTR work, we do supplemental support for them too, such as, great, you need to find some teaming partners to help with some of the work. Let's help you do that. Or, okay, you're doing this now, but you're also thinking about what's that capital raise afterwards. Let's help analyze that. And if you're still looking for additional business connections, whatever, that sort of research support, we can do that too, as long as maybe with our organization, provide technical support experts who can come in and go, all right, you need about 1 hour consultation. Let's have the tech consultation for what you're doing here with your roadmap. And does this make sense?
So just a little bit of context. Dr. Johnson mentioned he's been a part of the aerospace space for a while. And I believe when it started, it was a lot of people who also had entrepreneur ideas. And, so lots of different projects. And then the question is, what's next? And so very interested in sharing this even more broadly, because it seems like there's a nice roadmap where you can kind of help people along.
Absolutely. And if we can do that, there are 47 groups around the nation we can get you connected to that can. And this has been something I know has been a NSBE, aerospace, and frankly, across the board SIG conversation for about 10 years. So putting my previous hat on when I used to be on the national executive board for NSBE, one of the conversations we had for all SIGs are going, how can each of them become a vehicle for entrepreneurship based on whatever domain piece of expertise people have? And aerospace was clearly one of your bigger ones. People are going, what could we really do? This is a pathway to help people get started, especially when you're dealing with high risk, innovative tech, where frankly, it's difficult to get the capital markets involved. Many times corporate innovation partners want to say, I need to be further along first before I can say yes. And let's keep it real. If I had the money to build a lot of stuff myself, you probably wouldn't have been asking other people for the capital in the first place. So where do I go? And so these are some federal programs that can help with various aspects of the developmental journey and are often supplemented by various state programs that can provide assistance in other ways. Yes.
What do you work?
I'm like, all right, so what am I worth? I can say this: if the government wasn't subsidizing me, you couldn't afford me. But to you, but for the benefit of people want to come over and help us.
And can you send this briefing that you just gave to me?
I'm like, if certainly, I'll connect you, and then we can follow up, have conversations how we can work together after.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
It's just that the point I just want to mention, so Ron and I had sat down and talked, so we're actually looking to actually leverage. Yeah. leverage, the aerospace SIG to be able to expand and actually collaborate.
Yes.
And so we'll start there, but then you see the potential
Yeah,
of, to have a wide casting net and influence.
because what happens now, someone else schedule a meeting with me, we have these ideas. And people are researching and they're writing papers, and then it's like, okay, how do we go from paper to, building out, that business opportunity and stuff.
Yep, absolutely. So like, look forward to see what we can all do together.
Well,
Any other questions from the chat? Just want to double check.
Now, when he said state money, I think I looked at her, because I was like, what? I didn't know about that. Because I knew about the federal piece, but not the whole investment from the state side.
Absolutely. Like just for example, for Midwest, Ohio through their Third Frontier program created two sets of programs. Program one is their, investment network. So we hear the Jumpstart Inc. from Cleveland, the Rep Ones of Columbus, the Cincy Techs. Those are primarily funded by the state to do early stage investing and become evergreen investment funds. And separate and distinct, they provide their entrepreneur support provider networks where it's a series of people. So they have partners who work in energy, biohealth and the like, to really help people with commercializing products. And it's, as long as it's high growth potential, the state will pay for the services they provide. And that's technical assistance, which is really invaluable. So and it's not just Ohio does this, but I use Ohio as an example because that's where I'm playing now. But a lot of states do. A lot of states have programs like this. And I'm often a fan of we paid money taxes anyway. You may as well get some of it back. This is one place for those who are interested in innovation this way to get some of it back. And at this point, I thank you all. If there are any additional questions, happy to chat offline.
thank you so much for